All right. Good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. Good morning to those of you on the West Coast. Welcome to This Week in Pop Culture, the show in which we give you the goings on in the past said week in the world of pop culture. Whether we're talking about local news, film and TV news, streaming news, sports news, tech news, and the like, we try to bring you up to speed so that way you are not left in the wind. I'm your host, Brandon Choi, co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. And of course, I'm not going to be alone in talking about the said topics for this past said week. So stay tuned. I'll have my co-host join us momentarily. But with that, while in the process of waiting, I wanted to wish happy holidays to everyone out there, to whichever holiday you celebrate, whether it's Christmas, whether it's Kwanzaa, whether it's Hanukkah. Just want to wish everyone happy holidays. Hope it was a good one, time spent with family. And it's crazy to believe, folks, here we are at the tail end of 2025. I remember when this year started, and it's crazy to believe that now we are at the end of this year already. So with that, obviously a lot of times when you're talking about the new year, people have resolutions that they have for the new year. They have things they're looking forward to in the new year. So with that same idea in mind, my co-host and I, Spillz, who you know here on the show, we have our top five things, pop culture wise, that is, that we will dive into as our five most anticipated things. I could talk today, things that we have pop culture wise going into 2026. And this runs the gamut, whether it is games, whether it's films, whether it's television shows, could be events. You guys will just have to wait and see, what specifically those things are. But as I said, it's going to be our respective top fives. But before we get there were a couple other things that did happen in this past said week. Whether we're talking about unfortunate passing that we did have over this past said week, as well as some streaming news to get into as well. So I'm going to get into that now. And as I said, we'll have our host co-host join us momentarily. But before I dive into our first story, I just want to give you guys a heads up that, as always, there will be an effort to do timestamps accordingly, so that way you can skip forward or backwards to your heart's content to whatever story that we dive into. Of course, if you are joining us live, we thank you for joining the show live and providing your thoughts and comments of what we had to discuss today. But things get busy. It is the holiday season, and I know a lot of people are also prepping towards their festivities, even for New Year's as well. So if that is in fact the case for some of you out there, just know that if you're catching it after the fact, that you will be able to skip forward or backwards as needed. So with that, I'm going to get into our first story, and it looks like we might have our co-host joining us. Looks like he's getting himself on here momentarily, but I'll give him an extra minute. But I'm going to get into our first story. Okay, I think we have him here with us. Bring him on now. Spillz, hello, sir. How you doing? Hold on, I think you're muted, sir.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? How are we doing today?
We're doing good, man. We're doing good. So, as I said, Spillz, I know we had communicated, corresponded back and forth, but wanted to wish Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and then, like I said, to all those out there, to whatever holiday you guys celebrate, wanted to do the same for all of you guys out there. As I was, mentioning, Spills, we had our five respective top fives that we will dive into. A lot of people get into their resolutions, but we have our five most anticipated, things when we're talking about pop culture. So be on the lookout for that to close out this last episode of This Week in Pop Culture for 2025. But we're going to get into our respective stories before we get there. So with that, I wanted to get into our first story for this week, which falls under our Legacies Remembered segment. I'm going to bring that up now. As a prolific actor, Pat Finn passed away this week after a 3-year battle with cancer. This news came by way of a statement released by his family, who revealed that the actor, who is perhaps best known for his recurring role as friendly neighbor Bill Norwood on ABC's The Middle, along with other roles as Dr. Roger on Friends or Joe Mayo on Seinfeld, passed away at his LA home on Monday. The actor was 60. So, Spillz, I know you're a huge fan of Seinfeld. Your thoughts on the actor's passing?
You know, my condolences go out to his family. We are sad to see that he is gone from um the mortal coil, as they say. But I think that he was a great character actor. Sad to see this for his family and his loved ones. Loved him on Seinfeld. He was great on that. Not as big a fan of Friends, but I'm sure the Friends fandom knows him well. I feel like the Friends people are maybe some of the most diehard sitcom watchers in the world. So sad for him. What are some of your favorite of his works?
I mean, he's been in so many, different films or television shows. So he's kind of like that actor where I want to say he's very much like a Swiss Army knife in that, whatever he pops up in, I've found enjoyment, in the times that he has popped up. And he's one of those actors. I hate to say, unfortunately, is that as talented as he is, he's one of those actors where you're like, I know this actor, I know their face, I just can't picture their name. So I'm glad now I have a name with the face, because what all the things that he has popped up in, I've enjoyed him quite a bit. Whether we're talking about The Middle, I did, I was a watcher of that series, so enjoyed him in that. But he always, whenever he has popped up in anything, whether it's been on television, whether it's been in film, it's always been a plus to that said project. It's never been anything that has subtracted from that project. So again, condolences to the family of Pat Finn. As I said, passed away at 60. So condolences again. But we're gonna switch gears to our next story, and this is getting into some streaming news. So bear with us. This is for our stream and chill segment. And in talking about this story, this deals with the world of Star Trek, as Paramount Plus revealed on Tuesday that 2 iconic characters from its universe have been cast. That is, Thomas Jane had been cast as Leonard Bones McCoy, and actor Kai, and I apologize if I'm butchering your name, Murakami, had been cast as Sulu for the 5th and final season of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. According to the story, the 2 characters will feature in the final episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 5, aka the series finale. Currently, as it stands, Season 4 of Star Trek Strange New Worlds is slated to premiere sometime in 2026. So, Spills, your thoughts on these 2 additions to the Star Trek series?
I'm not as familiar with Kai Morikawa's work, but I love Thomas Jane. I think that he is great in all the work he does. He's done a lot of great shows. I think that he'll bring to Bones McCoy what you expect of him. I don't feel like the guy who played him in the Star Trek movies, the most recent ones. I don't feel like he captured Dr. McCoy in the right way. Dr. McCoy is kind of a disgruntled guy, and I think that uh, Thomas Jane can really portray him so well. So I'm
So you didn't like
pretty.
Carl Urban?
He's okay. He's okay, but I don't think that he's too like he doesn't look like he's lived enough of a life to be Bones McCoy to me. Bones McCoy looked like
Are you saying that he's too much of a pretty boy to play that character? Is that what you're
yeah,
trying to
for
say?
sure, for sure. He doesn't seem like he keeps alcohol in his desk, and I feel like Bones McCoy definitely keeps alcohol in his desk. You'd be like, hey man, I don't think that as a doctor you should be doing that. But Thomas Jane, you can possibly see him because he's done a lot of roles where it was morally questionable how he was moving through the
Okay.
world. So
Okay.
I feel like, and that's the vibe I always got from Dr.
He
McCoy
comes
in the
across
original show.
Thomas Jane comes across more grizzled in your opinion
Yeah,
and
for sure.
world lived than Carl Urban.
Yeah, Carl Urban, if he was the doctor on the ship, you'd be like, hey. What kind of how did he end up here? Like that's not the, why does he have his own private practice? I feel like he could be on the nice side of town. I think he'd be on the nice side of town with a extreme client list. I don't feel like he was like he had the attitude, but he didn't have the face to me. He didn't seem like he almost seemed like he was more handsome than Doctor than Captain Kirk on those movies. That's not how it's supposed to be. Like Doctor Bones McCoy is not as like look at him. See here, he looks like he's got bags under his eyes. He's a little bit sleepier.
Yep.
There's no
Okay.
bags. There's no bags on that urban guy.
Wow.
He's too
Wow.
handsome. He was too handsome.
So I'll say this. I, I don't completely agree that I don't feel like he wasn't a good portrayal of Bones. I did like his portrayal of Bones and that vibe that he gave of that character. Um, every universe is going to be different. So while I understand your thoughts on that character needing to be more grizzled, I feel like when we're talking about what is it, I'm brain farting the director as of now, but when we're talking about that cinematic universe, that has a different kind of synergy or a different kind of aesthetic than the television universe does. I know a lot of times with the television universe, it's somewhat grounded, but I feel like there is some cinematic qualities. There are some carryover there with cinematic qualities that happen there too. But one thing I will agree with you is Thomas Jane is awesome. In terms of his versatility of characters that he's able to portray. He's done so many, different characters and has demonstrated that he can do a multitude of characters. So I, I look forward to seeing what that looks like with McCoy. Uh, when we're talking about Kai, same as you, I'm not completely familiar with a lot of what he's done prior, but I trust the casting folks that he's able to embody that character, that iconic character from the lore of Star Trek. I'm kind of bummed too because I would have had a few of our team members on here to talk about Star Trek because I know that they are deeply entrenched
I don't know
into
if they would
the
have liked my take there, Brandon.
no,
They
they
might have
probably
been
wouldn't.
upset with me.
Deeply entrenched in the lore, so I'm sure that they'd be able to share more. I would call myself more of a casual, Star Trek fan versus like a hardcore fan. So I am looking forward to see what they do with it. From what I understand, with these two characters, with them being in the series finale, based on what the story says, there is an intention of carrying on beyond Strange New Worlds and to potentially do the early years of the next captain, which was brain farting. Help me out here when we're
Picard.
talking not Picard, before Picard.
Oh,
Um,
it's the other
Kirk,
captain.
Kirk, Kirk.
Kirk. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so the early years of Kirk, that transition of those early years that Kirk was a captain. So, um, looking forward to seeing what they do with it, and let us know out there for our Trekkie folks out there. Are you excited about these two actors? Maybe you guys feel differently. Maybe we have some folks out there is like that absolutely hate this casting. So I'd love to know your thoughts if you have issues with it. But with that, we are going to dive into our top respective fives. This should be very fun. So as
Oh,
I
but
said,
before we get to the top five,
yes, sir. Yes.
I saw a movie last on Friday night that possibly is the best movie of the year. I went
Okay.
out and saw that Marty Supreme, ladies and gentlemen. That Timothy Chalamet. Me and Teresa went to go see it. That Timothy Chalamet
Hmm.
is a tour de force, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think that we've really gotten to the bottom of his abilities. Wow. Wow.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. I gotta check it out. I have yet to uh see it as of yet. So it is on my to-do list. You know, there's so many things, especially when we're talking about strange what is it? Speaking of strange things, Stranger Things. So just wrapped up of watching that, just the other day. And now we have it's crazy to believe after all this time. Having the very end of that show. You know, remembering when that show began and now having it finally wrap up. And if it technically would be wrapping up on New Year's Day, it would have been on this list. But just off that technicality of us getting it on New Year's Eve, that's the only reason why it's not. So with that, like I said, I want to get into our top five, and this is our top five pop culture wise in terms of our five most anticipated for 2026. And this can include a whole multitude of things. It can include events, it can include games, it can include television series, it can include what is it, films as well. So I'm gonna hand it over to Spillz first. Spillz, you're number five, sir.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. My number five is a movie that we've been anticipating. Many of the other comic book trilogies don't make it to this number of movies, so pretty impressed that they got it with this. But it is a flagship movie, so of course we're going to go with Spider-Man: Brand New Day.
Okay.
Um, I'm interested to see in some of the things that they've done. They kind of left some little Easter eggs and stuff in the last movie about Venom. I'm sure everybody and their mother wants to see Spider-Man in the black costume and not turn into a jazz musician. Um, just really interested in it. Can't wait to see what they actually do with it. And I think it will tie in well with the Marvel Doomsday. That'll be pretty interesting.
Okay. All right. Cool. That's what's up. So Spill's number five is Spider-Man: Brand New Day. I have a feeling that some of these are going to be repeats, but it is fascinating to see where they fall in our top five. So
Hmm.
that was Spill's top five. But for me, let me see. I figured that I would switch things up, Spills, and kind of do what you did last week and have an honorable mention first. So I'm
Okay,
going
there
to
we go.
have an honorable mention and also do my top five or my number five, if you will. So with my honorable mention, I have House of the Dragon season three. It goes without saying, I love my Game of Thrones universe, and when we're talking about Game of Thrones, and this series is pretty wild in terms of the things that transpire on this show, and the the obvious backstabbing and all the different things that are happening, the intermingling things that are happening between these characters, with them being a part of the same line. So the kind of the civil war that's happening of who is truly the person who is destined to rule, or is has the right to rule. And when you're peppering that in with dragons and things of that nature, especially in the heyday when dragons in this world of Game of Thrones were rampant upon the world, they were everywhere. It adds some good stuff to sink your teeth into. So the show left off in an interesting place with us, with the a lot of the battle lines continuing to mount up on each side, and I am eager to see what is now going to transpire with a lot of these characters moving forward after some of the major events that happen, with character deaths that have happened, as well as uh, characters that have sustained pretty major losses this past season. So I'm curious to see if they will be able to redeem themselves going forward into this season 3. So that is my honorable mention. My number 5 is actually, so again, like I said, honorable mention for me would be House of the Dragon season 3. It's dropping sometime in 2026, and that's actually why it's an honorable mention, because for all these other ones that I have, which allowed me to be able to distinguish of how it could be in my top 5, I know for sure what the date is versus this series where it still has not been confirmed when in 2026. So you had to be put off as an honorable mention, House of the Dragon. I'm sorry. But with that, I'm going to get into my number 5. My number 5 is a show that I feel like isn't getting talked about enough, but it has kind of placed itself into the fabric of pop culture because of a certain meme. But that show being Your Friends and Neighbors, which you probably have seen this meme everywhere. I'm gonna run it here with John Hamm, but John Hamm plays a character named Coop, who is a disgraced financier who was cleared last season of murdering his the ex husband of his lover, played by Olivia Munn. But he also got away with his secret life of stealing from his rich neighbors, which of course came by way of his loss of his job as a financier. But the thing that was interesting this past season is, rather, even though he was cleared of the matter with the ex husband of his lover, and of other matters that he was finding himself with, he did have some golden hearing that happened in regards to his job. He still made the decision to continue his life of crime as a thief by the show's end. Sorry, spoiler alert. But
Great.
so I'm curious to see what's going to come of that, because we do have a new wrinkle with this upcoming season in the form of James Marsden, who is going to enter the second season as someone who threatens to expose Cooper for what he's doing among his neighbors. So very much looking forward to that upcoming season. And let me see if I can, like I said, I just had the meme up just a moment ago. This is a meme that's been going around a lot, and I know a lot of people have been thinking, like, where is this meme from? This meme is from this show, Your Friends and Neighbors. So just to give you an idea, where they have this particular meme of the character like dancing in the club. So if you don't know the idea or the context, a lot's been going on in his life. Everything seems to be falling apart, but for whatever reason, he decides, forget it. Like, I'm just gonna relax and just let the chips fall where they may. And a lot of people have been utilizing that, not just for memes regarding the new year, but I know a lot of people have been using it as memes when they're talking about different things of kind of living life to your fullest, and kind of allowing small worries to fall off you. So but there you go. That was my number 5 per John Hamm and his meme that has been gone viral this year. So what is your number 4, Spills?
All right, ladies and gentlemen. My number 4 is kind of tied in with the Spider-Man movie. My number 5. My number 4 is the uh, Avengers Doomsday movie. I'm excited to see that. They've decided to back up the Brinks truck as we said that they would many years ago. I've done the money hands on that many times, so that y'all know that all he has to do is pay the people the money, and then somehow we're going to get the movie and characters that we want. But sounds like they've got Chris Evans back on board. Maybe we'll have Thor. Who knows? Um, Very interesting. They
I think
might
it's
even have
confirmed.
Thor's back. Of course, Thor's back. Of course. Of course, ladies and gentlemen. So to me, it's a pretty much a done deal. Good job. I love the Doomsday. A little bit miffed that they didn't find a real person to play Doctor Doom, and they just made it be Robert Downey Jr. I feel like that's lazy. But it's a comic book movie. They're trying to print money, and to print money, you got to get the people that bring the people in, and clearly, the guys that they got are the people that they bring in.
Yeah, for sure, for sure, for sure. Um, Hold on, I think you lost me there for a second. Can you guys still hear me?
We can still hear you just fine.
Okay, all right. So yeah, that was Spill's number four, which was Avengers Doomsday, which is arriving in theaters the end of next year. So I know we're already getting teasers, but yeah, just to mention what you were asking, bringing up Spills, they've been doing this weird teaser strategy with
Oh, we lost him again, ladies and gentlemen. I think he may be frozen, but we are talking about Avengers Doomsday, a movie that has been anticipated. They feel like most people think that the fourth era of the Marvel Cinematic. Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry about that, guys. Just a slight technical difficulty, but I was mentioning is in commenting on what Spillman was talking about is that there have been, which I'm sure some of you guys also know, with Avatar, they've been doing this interesting promotion strategy where they've been doing different teasers each said week of the release of Avatar, and so the first one was the Captain America one, which they finally actually released online, but they actually even before officially of releasing online, they were already showing it with Avatar during its first week of release. During the second week, they've been doing the Thor centric teaser, and then apparently, from what I understand, for this third teaser, it's going to be X-Men heavy. So they're supposed to be showing characters from X-Men. From what I understand, it looks like it will be Cyclops, Magneto, and Professor X. But we'll see. We'll see if that's confirmed. That's what I've heard, based on stories that are going out there with sources that I have. So I'll be interested to see what that looks like. I'll be interested to see if they finally decide to do an official release of those said teasers, because as of now, the only one we have is the first one, and we don't even officially, even though it's people have been leaking it online, and there have been some variations of that thanks to AI that are not completely 100% accurate.
Hmm.
I want to kind of hold out to see if they actually just release a full 1080 HD version like they did with the Captain America one. So again, as I said, number four for Spills was Doomsday, Avengers Doomsday. So for me, mine is another television series, and what you're going to probably notice with this list is that the way that I was able to kind of distinguish what got higher and higher on the list is when the stakes are higher. So when we're talking about any given project that is entering its last season, I feel like the stakes are higher with those, so those went up higher on my list. So for number three, for me, let me see if I can get this up for you guys, or say my number four, excuse me, is none other than The Boys, the fifth and final season. And in talking about this said show, I don't know what else could be said. It's been a wild ride the past 5 seasons, and getting to know a lot of these characters, getting to know the members of the Seven, and being introduced to this world where you have superheroes who are not necessarily the best of people. I feel like that's an understatement, but yeah, as I said, the fifth and final season. we have the underdogs of the boys where they'll finally be able to take down Homelander, who we see here played by Anthony Starr. We also had the spinoff of Gen V, where a lot of those characters appears that they will somehow factor into the new season. I won't spoil, specifically how that is, but the way that they close it off in this past season that wrapped up for Gen V looks like they're going to try to pair them or factor them into the main story of the boys. The season is upcoming, fifth and final season is coming this spring on April 8th, as you can see here, with the 2-episode premiere culminating with the May 20th series finale. So, Spillz, your thoughts on that, and did you think about placing this in your top 5?
I enjoy the fandom of the boys, but unfortunately, I am not a member of the fandom. I don't really, we've talked about that one guy and how we don't support him. We
Oh,
we
right,
do,
right, right. Yeah, yes,
we
yes, yes.
appreciate that he be sending people to space, but
Uh,
I'm good on that. You know, I'm good on that. I'm interested in what they're doing with that show. It seems to be a great allegory for the world at large that we currently live in, and how it seems that the powers that be have no accountability anywhere. So,
sure.
if that's what you're into, I think that this is a great show, and I look forward to seeing the memes. The memes be funny. The memes be funny from the boys, so I'm down for that.
All right, cool, man. So, talk to me. What is your number 3?
So my number three is not in the world of TV or cinema. It's something that we have been waiting for since I think about 2014, 2013, somewhere around that.
Uh-huh.
And we've been waiting so long for it that they've now used it as a measure to say we got blah 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 before we got, and that is Grand Theft Auto 6 finally coming to video. I'm sorry. No, yes, Grand Theft Auto 6. Um, I really don't understand what it is that those people at Rockstar Games are doing. They seem to be able to spit out things very quickly any other time. I remember they put out Grand Theft Auto 3 and then San Andreas within 2 years. So, what's taking so long? Really excited for this. I'm probably going to take the day. I'll call off of work and I'll sequester myself into my dungeon and we'll play Grand Theft Auto 6. Um, I think that's what I deserve. That's what I earned. This is what we deserve. There's been like, if I remember correctly, the original Grand Theft Auto came out on PlayStation 4. We about to have PlayStation 6. What's going on? And it might have come out on PlayStation 3. I might be lunching, and it might have been PlayStation 3. But it's been a
Fair
long
enough.
time coming. It's
Fair
been a
enough.
long time coming. What about? I know that you are not a PlayStation person. I know that you're an Xbox guy.
Okay,
Um,
that's not fair. That's not fair. I am a PlayStation person. It's just that I have not had a PlayStation since PlayStation 1. So, after PlayStation 1, I'm thinking the systems I ended up having was Dreamcast, Xbox, and then after Xbox, I didn't look back on PlayStation after I got that first generation Xbox. So,
wow,
yeah.
wow, ladies and gentlemen. So again, he's not a PlayStation guy. So he doesn't like Grand Theft Auto. The rest of us are playing Grand Theft Auto. We've been playing it for years.
I guess I've
It's
never really what is it? Grand Theft Auto has never really been my thing because of the lack of, and I know people want to say, what are you talking about? It's customization. So, I mean, I know you can customize a lot on Grand Theft Auto, but in terms of, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, in terms of the actual character itself, that is the one thing you cannot customize. You can customize his clothes, you can customize the car that he has, but you can't customize the appearance of the character. Am I right or wrong about that?
That's true, but it's not. It's a sandbox world where you become the character, so it's a
Oh no,
different
I get
character every
that.
single
I get
time.
that. The only reason
I
why I
don't
say
think you
that,
do. I think that you want to be you in
I
all the
do get it. I
games,
do get it
and
because
that is a that's a view into the soul of Brandon, ladies and
the
gentlemen.
reason why I bring that up is because my variation of Grand Theft Auto was Saints Row, because you were able to customize the actual appearance of the character, and it featured a lot of the same elements that you would have in Grand Theft Auto. So I mean, technically, I love Grand Theft Auto. I just wish there was more customization, and unfortunately, there isn't outside of the character that they give you that you have to play. So
I
that's my
think
only
that
gripe.
with the stories that they make, because they make you play a character, it makes each experience its own unique episode. I feel like with a
Mm.
lot of the games where they can make you be anyone, there are elements of the story that you can't tell if someone is, say, a black person or Eastern immigrant. This one actually, finally, I guess Grand Theft Auto. Let's see if Grand Theft Auto
embraces
passes
embraces
the
the
Bechdel test. But the character, one of the main characters is a woman in this one for the first time ever, and so instead of immersion with that kind of customization, they want you to have a story, and the story of Grand Theft Autos are amazing. I think that they're the original sandbox game. They've been doing it so well for so long, and they understand what a sandbox game needs to be. There's so many clones of it that you don't realize are Grand Theft Auto clones, because that idea of open world sandbox stuff really, I guess that's why they've taken so long, is because Grand Theft Auto 5 was like the ultimate sandbox game. Like you could put they put people have modded that game so much to put games on top of it. They've had billions and billions of dollars in sales of residual things with the online thing. So with the online mode. So I'm just very interested in where we're going with that.
no, I hear you. I mean, there is something to be said about that where they and really embrace the culture of that said character, whatever their ethnicity is. I guess my only thing is I want to have, if I'm doing an RPG like that, I want to be able to be as deeply engrossed in the story as possible, and it's easier to do that when you're able to make the character resemble yourself. Um, that's just me, but I do, like I said, I also get the appeal of being able to show another character and to be able to fully embrace their ethnicity, which is hard to do if you are able, as you said, to change your character to resemble yourself versus a character that they already provide for you. But getting into, but yeah, that again, that is Grand Theft Auto for Spills number 3, Grand Theft Auto 6, excuse me, and that's coming out in November. My number 3 is something that is on Spill's list, but mine is slightly lower, and that is none other than the Odyssey. Um, the Odyssey is my number 3 most anticipated, thing about 2026. I know a lot of people out there saying, "How is this not your number 1?" But here's the thing: when we're
Yeah.
talking about the Odyssey, it's a no-brainer. Christopher Nolan, I know, directing the project. You have tickets that are already on sale at this point when we're talking about this here project, so it's going to be, it's going to be big. It has a who's who of the talent, major A-list stars that we have in Hollywood. So in terms of the pedigree that you have involved with this project, not only behind the camera but in front of it. Whether we're talking about Matt Damon, whether we're talking about Tom Holland, whether we're talking about, geez, I can go down the line. Who else? Anne Hathaway, Zendaya. I mean, the list goes on and on. John Bernthal. Like that's just a small snippet of the amount of talent that you have in this project. Even one of Spill's favorite favorite actors. Robert Pattinson. He's in this
Twilight
one.
that man's in there.
He's in this one too. So when we're talking about just the level of talent, not only behind the camera but in front of it, I am curious to see how it turns out, and I'm also curious to see Spillz how it turns out when we're talking about what normally happens when Nolan is doing a Sid film. Whenever something has a lot of fantastical elements, he has been known to find a way to ground it somehow. And so I'm curious to see how that's going to look when we're talking about the age of like gods and monsters that we have in this story. And I mean, we got a tease of it in the teaser where it seems like we saw a little small snippet of one of those mythological creatures, but how is he going to interpret that for the screen? What is that going to look like? Is he really going to fully embrace the fantasy elements that you have in the story, or is he going to find some other way to explain or interpret those fantasy elements in the story? So I'm very curious to see what that is going to look like, and if anyone can pull it off, Christopher Nolan, of course, can pull it off. So that is definitely my number 3 when we're talking about the most anticipated for 2026, and that is actually arriving on July 17th. So we have we have to go halfway into next year before we're able to check that film out. But Spills, your thoughts
You
without
know,
spoiling,
you've
without
stolen
spoiling.
my
'Cause I know
thunder.
I
You've
know it's
stolen my
on your
thunder
list.
a little bit, but I think that the Odyssey is one of the great literary works in the history of humanity. We haven't seen an epic Greek mythology done well in this modern era. I think that Christopher Nolan is the director to do something like this. He treats things like fantasy um, subject work with a reverence and care that I don't think that many people do. So we talk about it a little bit more, but that's what I'm interested in. I'm really interested to see what they do with it, and it's going to be a blockbuster. I think we're going to wrap the line around the block 2 times. I'm kind of sad that the Uptown Theater's not here because that would have been my place to see a movie like that. I would have loved to have seen it at the Uptown.
For sure, for sure. All right, sir. So you are up at bat. What do you have?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, my number 2 um, most anticipated thing of 2026 will be a second season that seems improbably long. Ladies and gentlemen, those of you who listen to the show may know that I'm a big One Piece fan. And they just told us that season 1 ended. Season 1 was 1184 episodes or something like that. They will take a small hiatus and return in April um, to begin the Elbaf uh, arc, which is one of the culminating arcs of the One Piece saga. We've been waiting 20 long years for this to be completed, and we will have it completed, and I'm pretty excited about that. As you see here to the right, the Giants have returned. We're going to Elbath. Very interesting to see what they do. Um, you know, One Piece has been all over the news for all kinds of reasons, revolutions, things that are sparking all over the world. So when I told you about this on this very airwave, I tried to tell you that One Piece is the show. So I should have made this my number 1, but I decided not to. So um,
Okay,
I know
fair
you're
enough.
not a big One Piece fan, but
So here's the thing. I am an anime fan. It's just that I haven't been able to get onto the One Piece train yet. And I know that there are a lot of folks that I know that love One Piece and are all about One Piece. And I really tried. And I guess I now understand how other people feel when I tell them about other shows, to dive into. A lot of times I'll tell them, oh, you need to dive into Dragon Ball Z, and they feel kind of overwhelmed because they're like, man, there's been years upon years of this, of this show and of this saga, and where do you start? And a lot of times I'll tell them, well, if you really want to like dive deep, then do Dragon Ball. But if you don't have the patience to get into diving that deep into this Dragon Ball, you can start at Dragon Ball Z and be okay, and not, you won't get every single small Easter egg. It won't be as deep of a enjoyment as you would if you were watching it from the very beginning with Dragon Ball. But at least with by starting at the beginning of Dragon Ball Z, you would still be able to follow what's going on. I feel like they still give you a sense of the world and some of the lore if you're starting at the beginning of that story. So um, I'm still, open to checking out more of it. Um, but we'll see. Like I said, this is definitely your bag, Spills, more than it is my bag.
The One Piece is real, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great show. I think that um, it does what good media, what good literature and good art does. It makes you think about the world that you live in and question things. And I think that's a good show. I know that it seems like it's a long show, but I feel like you can start anywhere once you get to the Grand Line. But it's only 1,100 episodes. I feel like the first Dragon Ball was like 400 episodes, and then Dragon Ball Z is like 700 alone. So that's not even counting like Dragon Ball Super or GT, which technically isn't even a thing. So
Yeah,
I
GT
think
is
that
not a thing.
all
Yeah,
these shows have filler. So obviously there's skippable thing. I feel like what you tell someone is you could skip certain sagas. Like there's some sagas where it's like this is something they added in the anime so they could write more manga. But I
well, I
think
mean, that's
that
that's what I would say. Like, if we're talking about Dragon Ball Z, I would tell folks, if you really kind of want to breeze through Dragon Ball, it's okay to check out Dragon Ball Z Kai, because they do breeze through a lot of the filler stuff. Because that Frieza saga, man, let me tell you, that Frieza saga went forever. Um,
well then
but
you
I
wouldn't like
feel
Wano. You would not like Wano. Wano I think is like 250 episodes on one era, but it's a very like it's satisfying in the way that the Frieza saga was, where it seems like it's three sagas in one, where it's like
yeah.
we get there, then y'all
And
finally
when you
meet
get to the
Frieza
end,
and turns to
finally, it
Super
is
Saiyan. Yeah.
satisfying. It feels like you've accomplished something when you got to the very end. But I will say there are a lot of episodes where it's just them talking. They literally in the air, staring at each other, talking, talking, talking trash to each other, like for 3 or 4 episodes. Basically, that's all it is. So, if you want to bypass a lot of that, I always recommend it. If you so choose, go ahead and check out Kai, because it will bypass through a lot of that stuff, and it will streamline a lot of the things that are transpiring in that said saga. So yes, that is Spills is number 2, which is One Piece, the Elbaf saga. Am I pronouncing that right?
Elbath. Elbath, ladies and gentlemen. It's the land of giants. We're in a land of giants. The One Piece verse has many different types of peoples, and giants are one of them. And they said that the show that the creator Oda wanted to make was the show about giants, but then he just put it in this show, and I think it's better for that. Make a show in the show.
For sure. All right, I'm back, y'all. Apologies about that. I ended up uh, timing out on me. I don't know what's going on. Some weirdness that is happening in this live stream. But anyway, um, just had Spills' number 2. You probably have seen this number 2 before mentioned earlier, but it is number 2 for me. So my number 2, Let me see if I can bring it up for you all, which, as I said, we've already covered thus far within this top five, but it's higher on my list than it is on Spillz's list. And that is none other than Spider Man Brand New Day. That is my number two. And, in talking about this said film, I know Spills touched on it a bit, just now, but I guess for me, when we're talking about the current state of the MCU and how everything has kind of been middling when we're talking about this said franchise, I feel like there's so much riding on this film to be good, and hopefully it will be. You do have a lot of components in it that are interesting. Whether it's, of course, Spider-Man himself, the state of his character, of course, following the events of the third film, and him having the consequences of that wish of nobody remembering him, or say nobody remembering Peter Parker. That is not necessarily Spider-Man, but Peter Parker, and what the repercussions of that are going to look like in this current reality that he's in now. What does that look like when we're adding other characters? Whether we're adding John Bernthal as the Punisher, whether we're adding Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk, and potential, likely getting back to the Savage Hulk that I know so many people have been yearning for the Hulk to return back to from being Professor Hulk. And then who, speaking of Stranger Things and things of that nature with that show, who is Sadie Sink actually playing? I know there have been a lot of different theories out there of who that might be. I know some people are saying, someone who's within the Spider-Man family. I know that there's some people that are saying that she may be Jean Grey. Maybe she's Rachel Summers. Like, we don't know. So there's so many. And then that's just the tip of the iceberg, because that's just with the quote unquote heroes that we have. We also have Tombstone, who's going to be in this picture. We have the Scorpion returning from his appearance in the first film, coming back in this film. So there are a lot of different interesting pieces, a lot of interesting ingredients in this cake that we call, Spider-Man Brand New Day. Spills, I know you touched on it briefly, but considering, as I said, how middling the MCU has been thus far, I believe that Marvel Studios is aware of the fact that a lot of things have been kind of middling, and I believe they really are going to try to put the effort into this said installment to uh, uh, to improve the feelings towards this mega franchise that we know as the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I feel like they are aware of people's perception of the franchise now, and are going to make efforts to kind of rectify that with this.
Yeah, I would definitely agree that that's what they're moving towards, is that they're focusing on making the Marvel Cinematic Universe work. Um, but I just think that it's interesting that we have so much riding on this essentially. With Disney, this is make a break time with them. Netflix just bought Warner Brothers. If they don't put up and show that they can make movies real good, they ain't gonna be making movies no more. Somebody gonna buy them. Someone, we don't know who. Maybe it'll be Hulu will buy Disney Plus. Haha. Wait, they already own Hulu already, but you know what I mean, ladies and gentlemen. But I just am interested to see where this goes. They can't, they've got to hit it out of the park with these two movies next year. Spider-Man's got to go for a billion or two, and Avengers Doomsday got to do 3 billion. I think that bringing all those guys back, they want it to be a $3 billion deal. So I don't see that it's going to happen though, because people don't go to the movies anymore. I feel like Tom Holland will. I feel like this movie will be influenced by Marty Supreme. I know I talked about that earlier. I think that Marty Supreme has been such a strong showing by a young actor that somebody like Tom Holland will try to keep up with him and showcase his abilities. I feel like Tom Holland's tried to do a lot of things, and nothing has been. He's been great as Spider-Man. He was okay as the Uncharted character in Nathan Drake, but I think that he really needs to set himself into this next level of star. And he's kind of been. He had it kind of when he said, "Mr. Stark, I can't feel my hands," and he disappeared. That was great. That's movie gold. But I just saw that movie Marty Supreme, and that Timothy Chalamet is amazing. I just
And in one
he
universe, Timothy Chalamet was almost Spider-Man, but always feel like things happen for a reason.
yeah,
I
I think
always,
so.
I always feel like Timothy Chalamet would play a better Gambit than he would as Spider-Man. So,
I don't know. If you've seen this movie, I would think that he would make a better Spider-Man because the way
mm.
that he is in Marty Supreme, he would just I think he would have been a better Spider-Man than Tom Holland. Now seeing him in this movie.
Oh wow,
Um,
wow.
I think that he would have been a better Peter Parker because he's a New York guy. He's with the culture in a way that Tom Holland is because Tom Holland ain't from here. Like he's great as Spider-Man. He's kind of like I call him like Tom Hanks Spider-Man. He's like all shucks kind of, and he's very endearing. But I feel like Spider-Man, manic guy living three different lives. Spider-Man, Peter Parker, and then Peter Parker student. I think that Timothy Chalamet could do that, but we'll see.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I
We'll
mean,
see.
I feel like Chalamet is a outstanding actor, clearly, but I'm gonna have to agree to disagree with you on there with the Tom
You
Holland
had to see Marty Supreme. If you see
cast.
Marty Supreme, then you'd be like,
And I'm sure he's terrific. Like I
I
said,
think that
I'm
he
sure
may
he's
have been a
terrific.
better Spider-Man.
But I can't. I feel like, and this is not a slight to Chalamet. I feel like with Gambit, I feel like Gambit is a very tricky character to play, where there are a lot of different layers and colors to him in terms of is he can you trust this character? Can you not trust this character? And I feel like Chalamet can play that balance of doing that. So if we're talking about characters that have yet to be cast, or if they decide to reboot those characters, because I know as of right now we have what's his name as
We got
Gambit.
Magic Mike. Magic Mike
Yeah,
is the Gambit.
yeah, we have him as Gambit currently. Is if they decide to reboot that character, you know, I could see Chalamet, taking that character over. Based off of what I've seen in Dune, I feel like he would be a good Remy LeBeau. Um, but with that, as I said, that is my number two. Uh, Spillman, your number one, sir.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen. My number one has already been mentioned on this list, but I think still deserves time to be outlined. My number one is The Odyssey. Um, I've been very excited about this movie since I heard about it. I think Christopher Nolan is the Spielberg of our era. There's nobody who comes close to him. I love the things that he's done. He's done original films very well. He's done adaptations very well. I think that this is right in his wheelhouse. I think that the amount of scholarly work on the Odyssey alone leads it to be something that um Christopher Nolan can really dig into. He's very good with making things that are fantastical seem practical and things that are practical seem fantastical. And I think that that's a very good thing when it comes to movie magic and that sort of push. So I'm excited to see what they do with the Odyssey. I want to see when they fake like their sheep to escape the Cyclops after they poke that
Right.
eye out. Like
Yeah.
that's
Right.
gonna be crazy to see on cinema.
Yeah.
Um, you know, them on the ships dealing with sirens and other kinds of sea fantastical things. Amazing. I think that these kind of movies can be hard to make sometimes, but I think that this is really what we'd like to see, and I'm really excited.
And I was going to say another thing, Spills, that I will be curious to see is For those of you that have been living under a rock that have never read the Odyssey, I'm sure at some point you had to have read the Odyssey when you were in school. Even if you don't remember every single detail of it, you know that the Odyssey is a massive, epic story. So how is he going to be able to translate? I didn't even bring that up earlier. I'll be fascinated to see how he's made able to translate that story as a whole. Is he going to decide, and maybe it just hasn't been announced yet? Is he going to decide to split it into 2 3 hour chunks, or is he just going to do a massive carving of things that just simply won't make it into the film based on runtime? Because even if he decides to make it 3 hours, there's no way he's going to be able to fit, a good chunk of what is happening, in this epic. So I will be curious about that as well. He's one of the few directors that I know is able that has kind of the cachet to be able to make that call where, after, even though it's not being announced now, I feel like he has the influence and the power to be able to say, you know what, this is going to be a 6 hour movie, and I'm going to split it into 2 parts and release them a couple of months apart. And just hasn't announced it yet. Like I feel like a studio would allow him to do that versus some other director. So I'll be curious to see if they decide to do that and go forward with that, because that's the only way that I can kind of see how this will work, of being able to do those two stories. Um, what are your thoughts on that? Do you feel like that they would be able to capture that in one film, or do you feel like he would
I
need
think
to
that they
split
can
it?
capture the Odyssey in one film. I think that it may be better as two-hour films than 2 3-hour films. I think that while the verse is very deep, I don't think that something that doesn't have a part two needs a part two. Like the Odyssey is the Odyssey. You listen
Yeah,
to it as is. So I think that
sure.
to take it in as a one piece of work, I think that Nolan does well with one pieces of work. He did that very well with Inception and Tenet and other things that he's done where it's just a one piece.
Hmm.
And I just think that, you know, the subject matter that he would be talking about, the idea of home and time and what you lose through the journey, which is really what the Odyssey is about, is really what his body of work has always been about. So I'm very interested to see where that goes.
Okay. All right. So that was number one for Spillman, which was the Odyssey, which again arrives in theaters on July 17th. Now, this one probably is a no-brainer and it goes without saying. Because I already kind of teased it at the beginning that our choices kind of switched in terms of where they fell in our top five. But my number one is, of course, Avengers Doomsday. Um, as I mentioned at the top, when we're talking about the top five and being able to distinguish where certain projects fill in that top five, the way that I was able to distinguish it for myself is, while I'm excited about a lot of these projects, are some of these projects, confirmed to have dates in 2026? While we do know that some of them are releasing in 2026, we still don't know if they are releasing. That was a factor. Another factor was, are we coming to the end of something? And when we're talking about some of the things that I had on my list that kind of climbed on that top five, whether we're talking about something like The Boys, which has been an incredible journey from the beginning to where the characters are now, including through the spinoffs that they've had. The stakes are so high for them to be able to make that landing. And a lot of times when you are doing a project that is coming to an end, or you're doing the finale of something, it is so key to be able to wrap it up in a satisfying way. So uh, when we're talking about Avengers, the stakes couldn't be higher, like even higher than it is with Spider-Man. Like if this doesn't work, I feel like the Marvel Cinematic Universe should actually just wrap up and just come to an end altogether, honestly, because there's so much. at stake, where you're not only talking about the characters that we have in the existing Marvel Cinematic Universe, we're also pulling over characters from other ancillary, Marvel universes, whether we're talking about the 20th Century Fox X-Men universe, whether we're talking about the Fantastic Four. More than likely, I wouldn't be shocked if they factor in right now. As I said, the only team that's actually confirmed is the X-Men. And when I say Fantastic Four, I'm not talking about the MCU Fantastic Four that we just had. I'm talking about the Chris Evans, what is it, Michael Chiklis Fantastic Four that we had with 20th Century Fox. Of course, we're also talking about the Spider-Man Sony universe that we had with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. I know as of yet it hasn't necessarily been confirmed. The only real big determining additions that we have had have been the X-Men, but man, like the possibilities of what you can do when you're adding all of these different teams and pieces from all these different universe, and can you give them enough runway in terms of things to do in the story where people feel like it's satisfying enough that you're having all of these characters factor in. While the kid in me is very excited, Spills, about all of these teams being involved in this said film, this one movie,
It's
it
too many.
also it's also concerning, like, how are they going to make it work? But I remember even with Endgame, like, I was skeptical that they would be able to find a way to balance these characters out then, and somehow they figured out a way to allow characters to have their moments to shine. And I feel like the best way that they have done that is by splitting all of these characters into smaller groups, which is what I understand they're going to also do. They're going to use that same approach with Doomsday, and of course, with Secret Wars, until we eventually have our big portal moment that will seek to surpass what we had in Endgame. So a lot of things at stake, but if they can pull it off, it can be one for the ages in terms of memorable films and moments that we have in pulp culture for sure. So that is definitely my number one, Avengers Doomsday, which releases, as I mentioned prior, in December, so December 18th. And of course, that could change as we enter into the new year. But at least as it stands now, these are the dates that we have for these said projects that we have mentioned being in our top five. So just going down, just doing a recap of what we discussed. Spillman for his number five. We had Spider-Man Brand New Day. For my honorable mention, we had House of the Dragon season 3, and my number five was Your Friends and Neighbors season 2, arriving in the spring on April 3rd. Spill's number four was Avengers Doomsday. My number four was The Boys season 5, the fifth and final season. For Spills, we had Grand Theft Auto 6. For me, my number three was The Odyssey. For number two, we had One Piece. And let me see, for my number two, we had a Brand New Day, Spider-Man. For number one, we had The Odyssey for Spills. And then for my number one, we had Avengers Doomsday. So did a lot of our number fives match up with y'all number fives? Are there some ones that you felt that we left out? I know this was a little tricky for me because there are some other shows that are things that I am looking forward to. But when I factor in all those things that I mentioned, where maybe they haven't had the date announced, but if they did have the date announced, is it a show that's continuing on, or is it a show that's coming to an end? I feel like when you're talking about something that's coming to the end, the stakes are way higher, which makes it that much more exciting that they're able to pull off the ending. But let us know in the comments. Maybe your top five looks different than ours. You can let us know. But Spills, crazy last this week in pop culture
2025. What a
2025.
great year. What a great year, ladies and gentlemen.
Happy early new year to you, a couple of
Happy
days
early new
early.
year.
But I'll punt it over to you. Can you tell folks where they can find you?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you can find me at Truly Spill on Instagram. I will reiterate: you need to go take your girlfriend, take your wife, your husband, your best friend. Go see Timothy Chalamet in Marty Supreme. I think he's a tour de force, and we all deserve to see him.
All right, excellent, excellent. So as I said, I know that film is also on my queue as well. I'm your host, Brandon Choi, co-creator of Movies and Shakers Unlimited. You can find me at Brandon Choi ENT on X, and then Brandon Choi _ENT on Instagram. With that, thank you guys so much for watching. Be safe out there, and see you soon. Peace.
Happy New Year! Happy New Year!
Happy
Don't
New
drink and
Year.
drive.